Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chat Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Diriye Ashtavraya Shavadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 2, Prayers by the Demigods for Lord Krishna in the Womb, text 36 onwards. Nanam rupe guna janma karma bhir nirupitavye tav tasya sakshina mano vacho bhyam anumeya vartamano deva kriyayam pratiyanti athapi. O Lord, your transcendental name and form are not ascertained by those who merely speculate on the path of imagination. Your name, form, and attributes can be ascertained only through devotional service. So again and again, this statement will come, how powerful, telling us how powerful devotional service is. Even the demigods are saying that. As stated in the Padma Purana, Atha Shri Krishna Namadi Nambhavid Grayam Indriya. One cannot understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, quality, and pastimes of Shri Krishna through one's materially contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental name, form, quality, and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. So only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord. Otherwise, it's not possible. Since Krishna and his transcendental name, form, and activities are all of a transcendental nature, ordinary persons or those who are only slightly advanced cannot understand them. Even big scholars who are non-devotees think that Krishna is fictitious. Yet all those so-called scholars and commentators do not believe that Krishna was factually a historical person whose presence on the battlefield of Kurukshetra is recorded in the history of Mahabharata. They feel compelled to write commentaries on Bhagavad Gita and other historical records. Sevan Mukhe hi jivato. Krishna's transcendental name, form, attributes, and activities can be revealed only when one engages in his service in full consciousness. Otherwise, no way possible. And even if one is engaged in the service, now what kind of service? Anukulina and Sarvapadi Vinirmuktam, all kinds of conditions are there. When we are engaged in that service, then only Krishna will reveal himself to us. This confirms Krishna's own words in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktyamam Abhijanati. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is only by devotion service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord, by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God only by Sevan Mukha. By engaging oneself in the Lord's service, one can realize the name, form, and qualities of the Supreme Personality of God. So only Prabhupada again and again saying, only by this method, there is no other way. Oh Lord, the demigods say, the impersonalists who are non-devotees cannot understand that your name is identical with your form. Since the Lord is absolute, there is no difference between his name and his actual form. In the material world, there is a difference between form and name. The mango fruit is different from the name of the mango. One cannot taste the mango fruit simply by chanting mango, mango, mango. But the devotee who knows that there is no difference between the name and form of the Lord chants Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and realizes that he is always in Krishna's company. So that is the power of holy name. Sometimes people do comment who don't understand what is this. You just keep on repeating the same thing over and over. This is how you're going to realize God? Yes, your name is non-different from Krishna. And when we are in contact with the name, we are in contact with Krishna, means we are getting purified. Simple as that. For persons who are not very advanced in absolute knowledge of the Supreme, Lord Krishna exhibits his transcendental pastimes. They can simply think of the pastimes of the Lord and get the full benefit. Since there is no difference between the transcendental name and form of the Lord, there is no difference between the transcendental pastimes and form of the Lord. For those who are less intelligent, like women, laborers, or mercantile class, a great sage Vyasadeva wrote Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata, Krishna is present in his different activities. Mahabharata is history, and simply by studying, hearing, and memorizing the transcendental activities of Krishna, the less intelligent can also gradually rise to the standard of pure devotees. So Mahabharata, it's a Puran, and it is written in such a way by Ved Vyasi that simply, and it has so many pastimes of Krishna and Krishna's devotees also, like Pandavas. Simply by studying, hearing, and memorizing the transcendental activities of Krishna, everybody can take practice. The pure devotees are always absorbed in the thought of the transcendental lotus feet of Krishna and who are always engaged in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness are never to be considered in the material. Srila Rupa Goswami has explained that those who are always engaged in Krishna consciousness by body, mind, and activities are to be considered liberated, even within this body. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Those who are engaged in devotional service of the Lord have already transcended the material position. So, always absorbed in the thought of transcendental lotus feet of Krishna means always engaged in devotional service with full consciousness, full mood of service, love. Then they are not in the material world, even though they are serving in the material world. Krishna appears in order to give a chance to both the devotees and the non-devotees for realization of the ultimate goal of life. The devotees get the direct chance to see him and worship him. Those who are not on that platform get the chance to become acquainted with his activities and thus become elevated to the same position. So this is the reason Krishna appears. Brahm Samhita says, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. Although Krishna's transcendental form is presented as black, the devotees who are in love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead appreciate the Lord as Shyama Sundar, having a very beautiful blackish form. The Lord's form is so beautiful that the Brahm Samhita also states, Venum Konantam Arvinda Dalai Aksham. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord who plays on his transcendental flute. His eyes are like lotus flowers. He is decorated with peacock plumes, and his bodily color resembles the color of a fresh black cloud. Although his bodily features are more beautiful than millions of cubits. This beauty of the Supreme Lord can be seen by devotees who are in love with him, devotees whose eyes are anointed with love of Godhead. So they only can see the beautiful form of the Lord. Or see, our eyes are so conditioned that even when we look at the Lord, we have to see the proper decoration, proper garland, and the dress has to be very nicely done, and the lights has to be properly prepared, and so many things. Then we only see external beauty. The devotees who are there, whose eyes are anointed with the love of Krishna, they see Krishna even if the deities are not decorated according to our standards, beautifully. Maybe deities are just decorated very simply. But those who have the love, they see the beauty of the Lord perfectly. Or because the Lord reveals his beauty to them. The Lord is also known as Giridhari or Girivardhari because Krishna, for the sake of his devotees, lifted Govardhan Hill. The devotees appreciate the Lord's inconceivable strength, but non-devotees, in spite of directly perceiving the Lord's inconceivable strength and power, regard the Lord's activities as fictitious. This is the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. Non-devotees cannot give any nomenclature for the Supreme Personality of God. Yet the Lord is known as Shyamasundar and Giridhari. Similarly, the Lord is known as Devakinandan and Yashodanandan because he accepted the role of son for Mother Devaki and Mother Yashoda. And he is known as Gopal because he enjoyed the sport of maintaining the cows and the calves. Therefore, although he has no mundane name, so these are not mundane or material names. He is addressed by devotees as Devakinandan, Yashodanandan, Gopal, and Shyamsundar. These are all transcendental names that only devotees can appreciate and non-devotees cannot. But still, even if non-devotees, they say this name, chant this name, they also get purified. That is the beauty of the Lord. The history of Krishna, the person, has been openly seen by everyone, yet only those who are in love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead can appreciate this history, whereas non-devotees who have not developed their loving qualities think that the activities, form, and attributes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are fictitious. Therefore, this verse explains Nama Rupa Guna Janma Karma Bhir. In this connection, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given the example that persons suffering from jaundice cannot taste the sweetness of sugar candy, although everyone knows that sugar candy is sweet. Similarly, because of the material disease, non-devotees cannot understand the transcendental name, form, attributes, and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although they actually see the Lord's activities, either through authority or through history. So this is what the difference is. And why? Because we've been suffering from this material disease of ignorance. For us, it is jaundice. Ignorance is so strong that even if Krishna is there, we see Krishna, we hear about Krishna, read about Krishna, still we think Krishna is fictitious. The Puranas are old, authentic histories, but non-devotees cannot understand them, especially Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the essence of Vedic knowledge. Non-devotees cannot understand even the preliminary study of transcendental knowledge, Bhagavad Gita. They simply speculate and present commentaries with absurd distortions. In conclusion, unless one elevates himself to the transcendental platform by practicing Bhakti Yoga, one cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his name, form, attributes, or activities. But if by chance, by the association of devotees, one can actually understand the Lord and his features, one immediately becomes a liberated person. This is the mercy of the devotees. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Janma Karma Chami Divya. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Srila Rupa Goswami has therefore said that by affection and love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, devotees can express their mind to him with their words. Otherwise, others, however, cannot do this, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. So devotees express their mind to the Lord with the words because they serve him, they see him with affection and love. And what do the devotees do? Shanvan grinan sansmarashyan chintaya namani rupani cha mangalani te kriyasu yastva charanara vindayor avishta chetana bhavaya kalpate. Even while engaged in various activities, devotees whose minds are completely absorbed at your lotus feet and who constantly hear, chant, contemplate, and cause others to remember your transcendental names and forms are always on the transcendental platform, and thus they can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the key. While engaged in various activities, devotees whose minds are completely absorbed at your lotus feet and who constantly hear, chant, contemplate, and cause others to remember your transcendental names and forms are always on the transcendental platform. So this is what Krishna expected from Arjuna also. Arjuna's going to fight in the battlefield. And fight is not an easy task. And that too when he was going to kill his relatives. Krishna said, just think of me and fight. So we all have various activities, job, business, home, relatives, this, that. But if we engage ourselves still constantly hearing, chanting, contemplating about Krishna, thinking how Krishna has put me in this service, Krishna has put me in this job or business, we can make tremendous progress. How Bhakti Yoga can be practiced is explained in this verse. Srila Rupa Goswami has said that anyone who has dedicated his life to the service of the Lord, by his activities, his mind, and his words, may stay in any condition of life, and yet is no longer actually conditioned, but is liberated. Even though such a devotee is in a material body, he has nothing to do with this body, for he is transcendently situated. Narayana para sarve na kutasyan bibhyati. Because a devotee is engaged in transcendental activities, he is not afraid of being materially embodied. Srimad Bhagavatam 6:17-28 illustrated this liberated position. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prayed, Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvara. All I want is your causeless devotional service in my life, birth after birth. So this is the prayer of a devotee. Even if a devotee, by the supreme will of the Lord, takes birth in this material world, he continues his devotional service. When King Bharat made a mistake and his next life became a deer, his devotional service did not stop. Although some slight chastisement was given to him because of his negligence. Narad Muni says that even if one falls from the platform of devotional service, is not lost. Whereas non-devotees are lost entirely because they are not engaged in service. This is said again and again. Narad Muni said, so even if we don't take care of our material businesses properly, but make progress, and in devotion service still fall down, we are not a loser. Because whatever progress we have made remains with us eternally. Bhagavad Gita also says, Salpam apyasya dharmasya mehatavya. Even a little progress on this path saves one from the greatest danger. Bhagavad Gita therefore recommends that one always engage at least in chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Satatam kirtayanto ma yatantascha dridata. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, the great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. One should not give up the process of devotion service, which is performed in 9 different ways, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. The most important process is hearing, Shravanam, from the Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, the spiritual master, the saintly acharyas, and the Vedic literature. Sadhu, Shastra, Guru, Vakya, Chittite, Kauriya. We should not hear the commentaries and explanations of non-devotees, for this is strictly forbidden by Sri Sanatana Goswami, who quotes from the Padma Purana. We should strictly follow this injunction and never try to hear from Mayavadis, impersonalists, voidists, politicians, or so-called scholars. Strictly avoiding such inauspicious association, we should simply hear from pure devotees. So so-called scholars or poets or or different people, they just have their own viewpoints about everything, about Krishna, about scriptures, about life, about this, about that. And when we hear them, we get thoroughly confused. Thoroughly. So that's why Prabhupada said we should simply hear from pure devotees. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore recommends Shri Guru Padashraya. One must seek shelter at the lotus feet of a pure devotee. who can be one's guru. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advises that a guru is one who strictly follows the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. A juggler, a magician, or one who speaks nonsense as an academic career is not a guru. Rather, a guru is one who presents Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's instructions, as it is. Shravan is very important. One must hear from the Vaishnava Sadhu, Guru, and Shastra. And then one can be on the right path and one can make progress also on that path. Otherwise, there are so many. Oh, my chachi says this and my uncle says that, and this Babaji in my gully says this, and this Babaji says that. It just doesn't matter what they say. What matters is what Bhagavad Gita says or Bhagavatam says. And many times we see so many memes on WhatsApp or Facebook. Oh, in Gita, Krishna says this, and somebody wrote this, and I said, where in Gita Krishna said that? Which chapter, where? I never studied all this, what you're talking about. Then they cannot prove their words. So why? Why see all this? The word kriyashu means by manual labor or by work is important in this verse. One should engage in practical service to the Lord. In our Krishna consciousness movement, all our activities are concentrated upon distributing Krishna literature. This is very important. One may approach any person and induce him to read Krishna literature so that in the future he may also become a devotee. Such activities are recommended in this verse. Such activities will always remind the devotees of the Lord's lotus feet. By fully concentrating on distributing books for Krishna, one is fully absorbed in Krishna. This is samadhi. So after all, book distribution is one service, very important service, no doubt about it, as Prabhupada said, so that the other person can also become a devotee in the future. But other services also there, and just one has to concentrate fully on Krishna while doing the services. This is samadhi. This is real samadhi, actually. Dishtya harerasya bhavata pado bharo apanitastam janmaneshitu dishtyankitam tatpadakya sushobhanay drakshyam gam dhyam chatvan kampitam. O Lord, we are fortunate because the heavy burden of the demons upon this earth is immediately removed by your appearance. Indeed, we are certainly fortunate, for we shall be able to see upon this earth and in the heavenly planets the marks of lotus, conch shell, club, and disc that adorn your lotus feet. The soles of the Lord's lotus feet are marked with Shankha, Chakra, Gada, and Padma, conch shell, disc, club, and lotus, and also by a flag and a thunderbolt. When Krishna walks on this earth or in the heavenly planets, these marks are visible wherever he goes. Vrindavan Dham is a transcendental place because of Krishna's walking on this land frequently. The inhabitants of Vrindavan were fortunate to see these marks here and there. When Akrura went to Vrindavan to take Krishna and Balram away to the festival arranged by Kansa, upon seeing the marks of the Lord's lotus feet on the ground of Vrindavan, he fell down and began to groan. These marks are visible to devotees who receive the causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Tavanukampitam. The demigods are jubilant not only because the appearance of the Supreme Lord would do away with the burdensome demons, but also because they would be able to see upon the ground the transcendental marks from the soles of the Lord's lotus feet. The gopis always thought of the Lord's lotus feet when he was walking in the pasturing grounds, and as described in the previous verse, simply by thinking of the Lord's lotus feet, the gopis are fully absorbed in transcendence. Like the gopis, one who is always absorbed in thought of the Lord is beyond the material platform and will not remain in this material platform. It's our duty, therefore, always to hear, chant, and think about the Lord's lotus feet as actually done by Vaishnavas who have decided to live in Vrindavan always and think of the Lord's lotus feet 24 hours a day. So this is the purpose of living in Vrindavan, so that we get influenced by the beautiful transcendental spiritual atmosphere of Vrindavan, the Braj Rajya of the Braj of the Dham and the sadhus, so that we can absorb ourselves 24 hours a day thinking of the lotus feet of Krishna. And as Prabhupada mentioned, when Krishna was there on earth, the marks on the soles of his lotus feet, they were put on the Braj Raj, on the ground. And wherever he would walk, even the cows, it is said 900,000 cows Nanda Baba had, and so many other cows other Gopas had. And when he and all his friends and cows would go in the morning, even the cows would not step on the footprints of Krishna. That's how they were so careful, so that everybody would know where Krishna went, and everybody would remember Krishna by seeing the foot imprints of his lotus feet. There are many places in Braj where Krishna, when he stood on some rocks and he played on his flute, the rocks melted. And Krishna's lotus foot imprints are still there. They are still there. Kamevan, Govardhan, Vrindavan, so many places. We can still go and take darshan. In fact, behind me, the backdrop is of Giri Govardhan, and it is said every rock of Govardhan, because Krishna and Radharani, and they have walked on Govardhan every day they go, every rock of Govardhan has a foot imprint of Krishna or Radharani. We have to have the eyes to see them. That's how pure the atmosphere of Vrindavan is. And the demigods are jubilant because they're saying, we are certainly fortunate. We shall be able to see upon this earth and the heavenly planets the marks of lotus conch shell, club, and disc that adorn your lotus feet. Na te bhavasyesh bhavasya karanam vina minodam vat tarkyamahe bhavo nirodha sthitirape avidyaya krita yatas tvai abhaya shrayat mani. O Supreme Lord, you are not an ordinary living entity appearing in this material world as a result of fruitive activities. Therefore, your appearance or birth in this world has no other cause than your pleasure potency. Similarly, the living entities who are part of you have no cause of miseries like birth, death, and old age, except when these living entities are conducted by your external energy. Stated in Bhagavad Gita, Mamai Vansho Jiva. The living entities are parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, and thus they are qualitatively one with the Lord. We can understand that when the Supreme Lord appears or disappears as an incarnation, there is no other cause than his pleasure potency. So he does everything because it pleases him, not because of karmic reactions. He has to take birth in some place and go through the cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death. We have to go through, not Krishna. We cannot force the Supreme Personality of Godhead to appear. Lord, it says in Bhagavad Gita, whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice or descendant of Bharat and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. When there is a need to diminish a burden created by the demons, the Supreme Godhead can do it in many ways because he has multifarious energies. There is no need for him to come as an incarnation since he is not forced to do anything like ordinary living entities. The living entities come to this material world in the spirit of enjoyment, but because they want to enjoy without Krishna, They suffer birth, death, old age, and disease under the control of the illusory energy. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears, however, no such causes are involved. His descent is an act of his pleasure potency. We should always remember this distinction between the Lord and the living entity, and not uselessly argue about that the Lord cannot come. The Lord can do whatever he wants. We cannot put a condition on him that he cannot come, he cannot do this, he cannot do that. There are philosophers who do not believe in the Lord's incarnation and who ask, why should the Supreme Lord come? But the answer is, why should he not come? Why should he be controlled by the desire of the living entity? The Lord is free to do whatever he likes. Therefore, this verse says, Vina vinodam but tarkyamahai. It is only for his pleasure that he comes, although he does not need to come. So, as Prabhupada gave a hint, that there is no need for him to come as an incarnation, not definitely to kill the demons. He can get it done by any of his energies, but he comes because it gives him pleasure to deal or to have pastimes with his devotees. When the living entities come to this world for material enjoyment, they are entangled in karma and karma phala by the Lord's illusory energy. But if one seeks shelter at the Lord's lotus feet, one is again situated in his original liberated state. As stated here, one who seeks shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord is always fearless. Because we are dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we should give up the idea that without Krishna, we can enjoy freedom in this material world. This idea is the reason we have become entangled. Now it is our duty to seek shelter again at the Lord's lotus feet. This shelter is described as Abhay, fearless. Since Krishna is not subject to birth, death, old age, or disease, and since we are part and parcel of Krishna, we are also not subject to birth, death, old age, and disease. But we have become subject to these illusory problems because of our forgetfulness of Krishna and our position as his eternal servants. So as soul does not go through birth, death, old age, and disease, this body does. First, because we have forgotten Krishna, so we are under control of Mahamaya, so we go through these struggles. Therefore, if we practice devotional service by always thinking of the Lord, always glorifying him, and always chanting about him, as described in the verse 37, we'll be reinstated in our original constitutional position and thus be saved. The demigod therefore encouraged Devaki not to fear Kamsa, but to think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who was already within her home. So, fear cannot come to Devaki because Krishna was there. Where did I go? Text 40. Matsyash Kachhap Nrsimhara Hansa Rajanya Vipra Vibudheshu Kritavataraha Tvam Pasi Nastri Bhuvanam Chayatha Dhunesha Bharam Bhuvohar Yaduttam Vandanam Te. O Supreme Controller, your Lordship previously accepted incarnations as a fish, a horse, a tortoise, Nrsimhadeva, a boar, a swan, Lord Ramchandra, Parshuram, and among the demigods, Vamandev, to protect the entire world by your mercy. Now please protect us again by your mercy by diminishing the disturbances in this world. O Krishna, best of the Yadus, we respectfully offer our obeisances unto you. In every incarnation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has a particular mission to execute, and this was true in his appearance as a son of Devaki in the family of the Yadus. Thus all the demigods offered their prayers to the Lord, bowing down before him and requested the Lord to do the needful. We cannot order the Supreme Personality of Godhead to do anything for us. We can simply offer him our obeisances and pray to him for annihilation of dangers. Of course, demigods' relationship with Krishna is in the mood of awe and reverence. Yashoda Maya can order him to do anything. Gopis can order him. Gopas can order him because their mood is different. But They are praying, and we also, because we are in so beginning stages, we cannot order him. We only have to pray to him. Dishtayambate kukshi gata para puman anshen sakshat bhagwan bhavayana mabhut bhayam bhojpater mumursho gopta yadunam bhavitat vatmajaha. O Mother Devaki, by your good fortune and ours, the Supreme Personality of God Himself, with all His plenary portions, such as Baladev, is now within your womb. Therefore, you need not fear Kansa, who has decided to be killed by the Lord. Your eternal son, Krishna, will be the protector of the entire Yadu dynasty. The words Para, Puman, and Shena signify that Krishna is the original but supreme personality of God. This is a verdict of the Shastra. Thus the demigods assured Devaki, your son is the supreme personality of Godhead, and he is appearing with Baladev, his plenary portion. He will give you all protection and kill Kansa, who has decided to continue his enmity towards the Lord and thus be killed by him. Shri Shukavacha iti abhishtuya purusham yadrupam anidam yatha brahmeshano purudhaya deva pratiyayur divam. After thus offering prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, that transcendence all the demigods, with Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva before them, returned to their homes in the heavenly planets. It is said the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead appear continuously like the waves of a river or an ocean. There is no limit to the Lord's incarnations, but they can be perceived only by devotees who are fortunate. The Devatas, the demigods, fortunately understood the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus they offered their prayers. Then Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma led the demigods in returning to their homes. The word Kukshi Gata, meaning within the womb of the Devaki, has been discussed by Sri Rajiv Goswami in his Kram Sandarbha commentary. Since it was first said that Krishna was present within the heart of Vasudeva and was transferred to the heart of Devaki, Sri Rajiv Goswami writes, how is it that Krishna was now in the womb? He replies that there is no contradiction. From the heart, the Lord can go to the womb, or from the womb, he can go to the heart. He is independent. He is supremely personality of Godhead, supremely independent. Indeed, he can go or stay anywhere, as confirmed in Brahma Samhita, Dantarastha Parma. The Lord can stay wherever he likes. Devaki, therefore, in accordance with the desire of her former life, now had the opportunity to seek the benediction of having the Supreme Personality of Godhead as her son, Devaki Nandan. So, not knowing the supernatural powers of His Grace Radha Damodar Prabhu, I told him that we won't be able to finish this chapter, but he knew we could be able to. So he had sent the message for the third chapter. I said, no, we won't be able to. But he knew beforehand. So thank you, Prabhu. So thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purpose of 10th canto, second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Prayers by the Demigods for Lord Krishna in the Womb. So we still have time, so we can start third chapter, the birth of Lord Krishna. So generally in Bhagavatam Katha, when they do 7 days Katha, all these professional reciters, so they have their task cut out for every day, and when then they one day they keep aside for Krishna Janma, and then they do lots of bhajans and prasadam is distributed. But that's not the way Krishna takes birth, or Krishna's birth should be celebrated. So let's study what Bhagavatam says. Text 1 through 5. Shri Shukuvacha Ath Sarva Gunopeta Kala Param Shobhana Yarheva Janma Janmarksham Shantarksha Grihatarikam Disha Prasedur Gaganam Niramalodu Ganodayam Mahi Mangal Bhuyishtha Puragrama Vrajakara Nadya Prasanna Salila Rada Jalaruha Shriya Dvija Lilu Sadnada, Tavka Vanarajaya, Vavo Vayu Suksparsha, Punya Gandha Vahashuchi, Agnyascha Dvijatinam, Shantas Tatra Samindata, Manasyasan Prasannani, Sadhunam Asurdruham, Jayamane Ajane, Tasmin Nedur Dundu Khaya Samam. Thereafter, at the auspicious time for the appearance of the Lord, the entire universe was surcharged with the qualities of goodness, beauty, and peace. The constellation Rohini appeared, as did stars like Ashwini. The sun, the moon, and other stars and planets were very peaceful. All directions appeared extremely pleasing, and the beautiful stars twinkled in the cloudless sky. See? Beautiful stars twinkled in the cloudless sky when he was going to appear. And then later on, it was so much of rain. Everything happens for his pleasure. Decorated with towns, villages, mines, and pasturing grounds, the earth seemed all auspicious. The rivers flowed with clear water, and the lakes and vast reservoirs full of lilies and lotuses were extraordinarily beautiful. In the trees and green plants, full of flowers and leaves pleasing to the eyes, birds like cuckoos and swarms of bees began chanting with sweet voices for the sake of the demigods. A pure breeze began to blow, pleasing the sense of touch and bearing the aroma of flowers. And the Brahmins engaging in ritualistic ceremonies ignited their fires according to Vedic principles. The fires burned steadily, undisturbed by the breeze. So when the fires burned steadily, undisturbed by the breeze, and the breeze, pure breeze began to blow. Only can happen when Krishna is appearing. Thus, when the birthless Lord Vishnu, Aja, birthless, he doesn't take birth, but he appears. The Supreme Personality of Godhead was about to appear. The saints and Brahmins who had always been disturbed by demons like Kansa and his men felt peace within the core of their hearts, and kettle drums simultaneously vibrated from the upper planetary systems. So beautiful weather, because nature is what? Krishna's servant. All the planetary systems, Krishna's servants. So they all had to line up properly because Supreme Personality of Godhead is about to appear. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that his appearance, birth, and activities are all transcendental, and that one who factually understands them is immediately eligible to be transferred to the spiritual world. The Lord's appearance or birth is not like that of an ordinary man who is forced to accept a material body according to his past deeds. The Lord's appearance is explained in the previous chapter. He appears out of his own sweet pleasure. When the time was mature for the appearance of the Lord, the constellations became very auspicious. The astrological influence of the constellation known as Rohini was also predominant because this constellation is considered very auspicious. Rohini is under the direct supervision of Brahma, who is born of Vishnu, and it appears at the birth of Lord Vishnu, who in fact is birthless. According to the astrological calculations, besides the proper situation of the stars, there are auspicious and inauspicious moments due to different situations of the different planetary systems. At the time of Krishna's birth, the planetary systems were automatically adjusted so that everything became auspicious. And if we remember, when Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha were in the womb of their mother, Aditi, there was darkness all over the universe, not even on one planet, all over the universe, and bad omens were appearing. Why? Because these two great demons were going to appear. So even the nature responded according to the who's going to appear. And such huge demons are appearing. They're going to terrorize the whole universe. So even the nature was afraid. But here, Krishna is appearing and everything became auspicious. At that time, in all directions, east, west, south, north, everywhere, there was an atmosphere of peace and prosperity. Auspicious stars were visible in the sky and on the surface in all towns and villages of pasturing grounds, and within the mind of everyone there were signs of good fortune. The rivers were flowing full of water, and the lakes were beautifully decorated with lotus flowers. The forests were full with beautiful birds and peacocks. All the birds within the forest began to sing with sweet voices, and the peacocks began to dance with their concerts. The wind blew very pleasantly, carrying the aroma of different flowers, and the sensation of bodily touch was very pleasing. At home, the Brahmins who were accustomed to offer sacrifices to the fire found their homes very pleasant for offerings. Because of disturbances created by the demoniac kings, the sacrificial fire had almost been stopped in the house of Brahmins, but now they could find the opportunity to start the fire peacefully because Krishna is coming. Being forbidden to offer sacrifices, the Brahmins were very distressed in mind, intelligence, and activities. But just on the point of Krishna's appearance, automatically their minds became full of joy because they could hear loud vibrations in the sky of transcendental sounds proclaiming the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is how beautiful the atmosphere became. And everybody was happy, all the devotees, obviously. On the occasion of Lord Krishna's birth, seasonal changes took place throughout the entire universe. Not just in Mathura, not just on earth, entire universe. Krishna was born during the month of September, yet it appeared like springtime. The atmosphere, however, was very cool, although not chilly, and the rivers and reservoirs appeared just as they would in Sharat, the fall. Lotuses and lilies blossomed during the day, but although Krishna appeared at 12 o'clock midnight, the lilies and lotuses were in bloom, and thus the wind blowing at that time was full of fragrance. Because of Kansa's disturbances, the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies had almost stopped. The Brahmins and saintly persons could not execute the Vedic rituals with peaceful minds. But now the Brahmins were very pleased to perform their daily ritualistic ceremonies undisturbed. The business of the Asuras is to disturb the Suras, the devotees and Brahmins. But at the time of Krishna's appearance, these devotees and Brahmins were undisturbed. Of course, Kansa will disturb them again. And now the different pastimes of Krishna will happen. So such beautiful atmosphere when Krishna is appearing. Jagu kinnar gandharvasa tushtavu siddhacharana vidyadharyascha nanritur apsarodhi samammuda. The kinnars and the Gandharvas began to sing auspicious songs. The Siddhas and Charans offered auspicious prayers. And the Vidyadhars, along with the Apsaras, began to dance in jubilation. So I guess we can stop here because next verse has little long forward. So let's stop here and see anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, when I used to wear this Bhagavatam सप्ताह जब होते थे ना, तो वहाँ पे हम लोग मैं जाती थी, तो they used to sing this bhajan नंद के आनंद भयो जय कन्हैया लाल की. I was just remembering that ऐसे जैसे ही वो वाला पोर्शन आता था तो बहुत जोर से ये वाला भजन बजना शुरू हो जाता था कथा में.
Yeah, in Vrindavan they still do. When Janmashtami time, they still do. Every temple does that.
Yes.
But their mood is different.
Yes, Prabhuji.
That's all.
Very good. Hari Bol.
Hari.
Hari Bol.
Hari
Hare
Bol.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri.
जय